Hi folks, welcome back to DevOps Architect YouTube channel, the training series on Jenkins CI/CD tool. So in the previous session, we have seen how to manage the user, and we have seen like how to configure the user, how to manage the user by using the role-based strategy. So today's class and our today's session will be on the Jenkins Master and Slave node configuration. So before getting to the Master and Slave node configuration, so let me give a small, just quick intro on why do we need a Master and Slave. So in real time, basically when the developers are trying to build multiple software packages, or if the if a company, or if there is a requirement of Jenkins which is running with more number of jobs, which is trigger, that could be a developer, or it could be the infra admin, or it could be an automation engineer, or it could be a test engineer. So when there are more number of jobs running in the in the Jenkins node, so to offload that particular number of jobs execution, we need a slave node. We need another node which can take up the job running and another node. So that is called a slave node, right? So what is the prerequisites that we need for configure the slave node? So we don't need to install the Jenkins on the slave node, but rather we need a Java which is very specific, which is very prerequisites for configuring the slave node. And so it also matters like how do we get authenticated between the master and slave node configuration, right? So we'll be seeing how the Jenkins master will connect to the slave and will offload the job to the slave node. So let's see the configuration. So today, for this Jenkins Master and Slave, I have two instances. That is, one as a Jenkins, which is currently running. So the IP address which ends with 10384. So this is a Jenkins which is already installed. The Jenkins is already installed in this machine, and we have the slave. There we have another instance which is named as a slave, but we don't have anything on this machine. So let's access this machine and see if there is anything in this machine now. All right. Yeah, I am into the machine. So Java version. Sorry. Okay. So is there a Jenkins running in this machine? Let's figure it out. Okay, so there's no Jenkins configured in this machine. So let's talk about the another box. Let's talk about the another box. Let me access the Jenkins machine and find if we have the log. So obviously this machine should be having the Jenkins because I already accessed in the dashboard, right? So let me install Java on the slave node. Install Java on the slave node. Alright. So the Java is getting installed on the slave node, and we have the Jenkins configured in another box. So let me go to the dashboard and go to Manage Jenkins. So there is something called Manage Nodes and Clouds in Manage Jenkins, right? So go to Manage Nodes and Clouds. So here you can see the number of machines listed here. Like if you have like 10 slave nodes, all the 10 slave nodes can be listed here. And so let me go and add a new node to this Jenkins infrastructure. So I want to name the node as a slave 1. I click on permanent agent. Okay. So there are a couple of options here. So the remote root directory. So what is this remote root directory? So this remote root directory is something where I can run my jobs. And basically when you see var lib Jenkins, that's the whole path for the Jenkins master node, right? So there is some, then we need to create some directory where I can execute my jobs and store the jobs in the backend, right? So for that, I'll go to my, okay, Jenkins Java is installed in another box. So I'll go to the home directory and I'll create a directory name called Jenkins, so where I can store my Jenkins job. So that would be the root directory for this the slave node, right? So the labels. So labels. This could be something like, if I want to configure, if I want to make the jobs specific to run on this particular slave node, so for that I use this label, right? So I will use as a dev dot start. So the jobs, the jobs which matches this label. So when I configure the job, I can specify the label where I can run my the where I can run my the jobs, right? I wanted to land this, I wanted to land the jobs which has the label as a dev to the slave nodes. So for that I make specific this jobs to run on the slave nodes. So I'll make the usage only build jobs with label expression matching this node. So the jobs which matches with this particular label will run the node, will run the job on this particular slave node. Now I wanted to launch, so I wanted to launch the method, right? So there is three method of launching this slave node, but I'll go with the launch agents via SSH. I wanted to make sure this authenticates via SSH. So now it asks for the host. The host is nothing but you can give the IP address of the machine, right? So take the IP address, the slave node IP address. Make sure you take the private IP address. So take the private IP address. So I'll take the private IP address and credentials. So now the credentials should be, as I told you, it should launch via SSH agent. So I need to configure the SSH. I need to store the keys, right? So for that, go for the add Jenkins, and here you need to select for the SSH username with private key, right? So select this SSH username with private key, and now I need to enable. Now basically I need to exchange a key between the slave and master node, right? So I will generate a keygen SSH keygen -DRSC. So I am generating a key, or better, I'll do this from my master node. So on my master node, let me jump to root user, and I'll create a key for root user, right? So I got the keys now. I'll go to /etc. Sorry, it should be the root dot ssh. So this is a directory where I have the keys. Now I need to copy the key, the public key. I need to copy the public key to the slave node. So to the slave node, go to the root directory.ssh, and there should be something called authorized keys, and go to the end of this file and store the public key over here. So I have stored the public key here. Now I want to authenticate from the Jenkins dashboard, so I need to enter the private key. So don't give the public key over here, right? So I'll make the ID as a slave node, slave 1, and the username as a root. So slave 1 root user, right? So the private key, I want to give the private key. So don't enter the public key over here, because through the private key it gets authenticated, right? So I just wanted to copy the private key from my master node where I have generated the key for the root user, right? So copy this private key and store it here, and then add it. So ensure you select this user, and make sure the host key verification strategy should be manually trusted, right? So after this, just click on save, and the configuration of the slave node is done. But it takes a few seconds to launch because it might it should get authenticated, and then it should make sure the authentication is successful, and then the slave node is configured. It adds to the master node. So now let me refresh the screen. I think it should be done. Yes, it is done. And go to the script console. You can see this particular, I'm sorry, go to the console, or go to the slave node, and here you can see the status is done. So there is no cross mark, or there is no red mark here, because the agent slave is added. Now I wanted to run the job based on the labels, right? So let me configure, or let me run one particular job. Okay, so though I have the master slave node, I wanted to run a particular job, so I have run the dev job. So this particular job is executed. Let's see like where it got executed. So this particular job is executed on the master, so building on the master. So by default, it is running on the master node, right? So the job was just dev1. So let me reconfigure this and make sure this job is very specific, or this job will specifically run on the slave node, right? So come down. So there is a, in general, right? Go to advanced, restrict restrict where this project can be run, right? So click on this, and there is a label expression, right? So I'll give as a dev, so it will be coming in a drop down list. So just click on this. Label dev is serviced by the one node, permission on other restrictions provided by plugins, right? So just apply and save. Now let me run this job. Let me run the same job, and we'll see if this is getting executed on the slave node. Alright, so it got successful. Let me see the console output. Yes, so building remotely on slave 1. So this is how to configure. This is the configuration of master and slave node, guys. So if you have any doubts, please place a comment in the comment section, and I can respond to your queries. So thanks for attending the class, and please subscribe to the channel and enable the alerts, so you'll be receiving all the Jenkins series tutorial. Thank you so much.